Hi, and welcome to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn, and today is an appropriate tasting that I'm very excited for many reasons. I've got a Belgian sour and I've got an American sour beer, and it is because today I am putting my tickets on sale for the Transients event that will be hosted at the Beer Temple for the Chicago Craft Beer Week. It is May 5th today. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I probably should have a Mexican beer today, but I don't. But I think I have something a good replacement for it. So basically, Chicago Craft Beer Week has been going on. I think this is the 4th year that it's been going on, and the first year that I've had the store open for it, and I wanted to do something fun. I also had a child imminently on the way, so I will have a child by the time that event takes place. So I don't know if I mentioned that, but Margaret and I are expecting very, very soon. So I wanted to do something. I wanted it to be special. So what I did was have two former barrel program brewers from Goose Island, two people I respect very, very much. People behind such beers as Bourbon County Stout, which I hate that beer, and also Juliet, which is one of my all-time favorite beers as well. People who really know sour and acidic beers. John Laffler and Tom Corder have since left Goose Island and are starting their own breweries separate of each other. And I thought it would be fun to have a reunion, have them come into the store and talk a little bit about Belgian sour beers, the history, why they came to be as they are. Talk about the blending process a little bit, and then talk about American sour beers as well. And we'll have examples of each. We're going to have different types of sours, acidic sours, lactic sours, funky sours, barrel forward sours, earthy sours, and just kind of talk about it, and then do a live blending seminar, an interactive blending where people are going to be blending their own sour beer, and they'll kind of be guided by Tom and John to kind of get to where they're trying to get to. They'll kind of help them figure out what they're trying to make and then how to get there. And then at the end, they're going to take the yeast from the blending sessions that the people kind of put together and pitch it into wort and barrel age it for a year and release it at next year's Chicago Craft Beer Week. So I think that's really, really cool. It's pretty much exactly what I wanted to do. I only wanted to do a few events for Craft Beer Week, but I wanted to make it really fun. And it's called Fowl Transients, F-O-W-L. Fowl Transients, Traditional Lambics, and American Wilds at the Beer Temple with Off Color Brewing and Penrose Brewing. So tickets go on sale today. People are already lined up out front of the store, and I wanted to give them a little thank you, and I wanted it to be an appropriate thank you for standing in front of my store to buy tickets. So I figured, why not really put two kind of titans of the style in their respective categories, not head to head, but alongside each other. They're separate. So the first is Cantillon, and it is from Brussels, Belgium. We've had it on the show before, and love the little Cantillon guy, little dude tippling on his chair. This is their goose. This is a blend of 3 different years of lambic, 1, 2, and 3-year-old lambic. I've talked about lambic in the past. You probably want to go and check out. I did a whole 3 or 4 part series on sour beers, and Goose was one of them. It is basically, it's coming right out. Goose is 3 different years of unsweetened lambic. It is spontaneously fermented, and it has to be really from an appellation, a certain place in Belgium to be considered goose. It is bone dry, so a lot of people think of lambic, they think of sweet and fruity. Cork smells pretty nice. This is to the 2003 bottling, or 2011 bottling. Yeah, let's get right to it. So goose is going to be traditionally, poured myself a little too much, that's fine. Very effervescent, very highly carbonated, and that is because the young lambic still has a lot of sugars in it, unfermented sugars, and when it is blended together, all the yeast that's already been in, and kind of worked its way through and gone dormant, often in the older lambics, is kind of re-energized and starts fermenting again and creating all these bubbles. If you have an aged lambic, oftentimes it will be completely still, like I had in the Hansen's Scarenbecca Creek episode. That is a lambic, and it is still because there are no sugars left to really make CO2 with, because the yeast eat sugar and they output alcohol and CO2. So anyway, I digress. So what are we looking for in this beer? There's so many different things that a goose can be, but I like them to have some fruity character. I like them to be somewhat sour and acidic. I like it to be a nice clean sourness. I like almost like a lemony, like a citric acid-esque. It's not citric acid, but I like it to kind of feel like that. And I like it to be some funk, It's hard for me to get for a beer to be too funky. It sometimes can be too sour for my palate, or my preference anyway. And I want a lot going on. I like to have some barrel quality as well in it. And a little bit of acidic, like a vinegary note to it isn't bad either. So this beer has a really wonderful fruity nose to it, almost like a peach, like a unripe peach. Really lovely. It also has quite a bit of tart, kind of nose tingling tartness to it as well, and a little bit of like a honeyed caramel, and certainly some like horse blanket, barnyard notes as well. Now, sometimes you can get heavy phenolics from the Brettanomyces, which is putting out these earthy flavors, and they can almost get like rubbery smelling, like a tire, like burning tires, or someone said pencil eraser, and I think that's a perfect descriptor of it. Not really getting that here. It's much more champagne-like, fruity, with a good amount of funk. Very light in the palate. Highly drinkable, highly thirst quenching. This is a lower alcohol beer. Really nice kind of unripe fruit flavor to it. A hint of grain, certainly some barrel quality, a nice clean kind of oakiness to it. As it finishes, where on a heavily hopped beer, you have, and this is a heavily hopped beer, but they use aged hops here, mainly for their antibacterial qualities, because there's just so much going on. It can easily get out of control, and the antibacterial qualities that are naturally found in hops, and one of the reasons that hops was traditionally used to spice beer, really helps kind of tame that down. They use so much hops, though, that it would really throw this beer out of balance. You don't want a lot of aromatic or even bittering qualities from the hops. So what they do is they age them for a year, I think at least a year, to really let the hops kind of lose all its flavor and bittering potential, and really it's just left with the antibacterial qualities to it. So I digress. Really not any hop character here, but so light and drinkable. Really lovely beer. You know, this is not, I would say, my favorite bottle of Cantillon I've ever opened. I think it can age even more with a couple more years. It might get a little more sour and a little more funky and just a little more out there and more of a kind of a punch in the face, which is fun sometimes. This is really a quaffable goose, this as it stands right now. It's very, very nice. Almost a little delicate. I love those like unripe fruit skin flavors, those unripe apricot and peach notes on there. Really lovely. Very, very nice bottle here. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna give this guy like a 93. Really, really good quality. Not stellar, not a world-class bottle of goose, but really, really nice. Would go lovely with food, believe it or not. Lovely with the cheese plate. Some kind of stinkier cheeses. Nothing too overpowering, because like I said, it is, you know, it still feels a little bit young. It feels like it's got a ways to go. This should be kind of laid down for a little while. And that's the other thing about goose, is they can really age for a long, long time, decades. Okay, so moving on. American sours, I find, tend to be less, some would say complex. I would say they are more focused. A lot of times, the yeasts that are kind of naturally fall upon the alembics from Belgium, because they just exist there, you know, the Americans are much more precise. They get isolated strains of bacteria and wild yeasts, and they pitch them, and they really kind of monitor it and kind of get a certain flavor profile. And I find them to often be more acidic and more acetic and focused, not so much barnyard and so much and this and that and fruit. They seem to be intense and focused at their best. This is sour in the rye from the brewery. I feel one of the breweries in America that is really doing the most cool stuff with sour beers. And I think there's quite a bit of rye here. I think there's 40% rye, Bill, and it is aged in oak. Yeah, hints of oak, aged, and didn't really go and get the backstory on this guy, but I know enough about it. You know, there's certainly a house character from the brewery as well, even though, you know, they have it in their barrels. You know, a lot of the house character gets ingrained into the wood in these breweries, and when they reuse the barrel, they kind of replicate some of the flavor profiles, even though they are also pitching precise amounts of yeast and bacteria at sometimes. They actually isolate bacteria and add it. Okay, so a much more caramelized note to it as well, as compared to the goose. There's more heft here. It's a little bit darker as well. It's got a really nice, almost like gingery note to it. Not as bursting with fruit flavor on the nose. A little more subdued on the nose compared to this. But a really nice kind of gingerbread, believe it or not, mild. Those rye spice notes to it. Fuller mouthfeel. Much more vinegar in here. Much more acetic, but also lactic as well. Fuller mouthfeel, rounder, softer on the palate. Fairly rye forward. And it plays well. It's kind of like a spicy sour beer. Both these are at room temperature. Really leaves you with much more puckering note on your palate. I like this beer quite a bit. It's not as complex, like I said, but that's fine. That doesn't mean it's worse. It could mean it's better. You know, it really kind of knows what it's trying to do. I like this kind of more malt backing to it. I think it needs it with the amount of acid going on in this beer. I'm gonna give myself just another little taste, actually. Also highly carbonated. In fact, you'll see that these are in sturdy bottles, and that's because if it was in a normal bottle, it would actually explode. There's just a lot of pressure from all these yeast these aren't pasteurized. They're continuing to make more carbonation. Wonderful kind of, yeah, like ginger note. Getting like a sour Tootsie Roll thing here. Also kind of fruity, but I would almost like a plummy, darker fruit. Very nice. I would not put it up against the Cantillon. In my mind, I'm going to go 92 with this. Really nice beer. I think both of these might respond well to a little bit of chilling. I'll probably pop these in the fridge in a moment. But really nice. Something to look forward to. Kind of a little preview of things to come at the Foul Transients. I wish you guys could be here. I might have some video of it so we can pop that online. I don't know if that'll be how possible or how frazzled I will be. But again, guys, thank you so much. Thanks to you guys out there who are now standing in line for 2 hours before the store opens just to get tickets to my little thing. I cannot tell you how much it means to me. We've been getting just wonderful feedback about the store, and people come up to me and thank me for opening the store, and it just means the absolute world to me, guys. Thank you so much. I love to hear everything, as long as it's constructive. It doesn't need to all be positive. Thank you so much, guys. Until next time, I've got some great sour beer to drink. And I hope you do too. If you're standing outside, you will shortly, because I'm going to share this with all of you. Thanks, guys. Cheers.